my whole life just started falling apart. I spiraled uncontrollably.
Did you have a moment where you're like, all right, I'm responsible for this change?
That was the hardest part for me. I didn't even know how to deal with what I was dealing with.
Is there anything else you might want to share?
I may not be able to recover if I say it out loud.
How's it influencing you now?
Before treatment, I didn't respect my humanity, and now I'm not afraid of talking about the dark parts. I am excited about opening up my life in a way that shows scars.
My whole world opened up when I allowed people to come into my story and show me grace and not judgment. I want to acknowledge that and affirm you for that. That's recovery in action.
Now I'm here on the other side of a bunch of things I never thought I would be over.
You know what I feel when I'm talking to you? It's just a sense of freedom.
That is exactly what it is. It's opening a door, allowing people to see my wounds, allowing people to see my scars.
Package that up right there. I'll take some of that. We've been taught everything except how to be human. I'm Miles Adcox, and this podcast turns raw experience into practical wisdom. So if you're ready to stop performing your life and start participating in it, you're in the right place. This is Human School. Before most people know Chandler Moore's story, they might know his voice. He's a 5-time Grammy Award-winning artist that is known internationally for the songs he's led and wrote. His work is frequently sung in conferences, cars, churches, in moments where words are sometimes hard to find. Through his work with Maverick City Music, Chandler helped shape the sound of modern worship, also shaping the faith of a generation. What seems to matter most to Chandler is what's happening underneath the sound, the interior work, the places most don't post about, the questions that don't resolve quickly, and the side of life many of us experience and never want to talk about. Chandler doesn't separate worship from real life. He sings about waiting and doubting and trusting and loving and breaking and redemption. His songs make room for people to arrive as they are, not as they think they should be. It's one of the things I admire most about my guest today, who I'm really grateful to sit with. Please welcome my friend Chandler Moore.
Wow.
Welcome,
that's
buddy.
Nice. I like that. I'm like over here like, okay, that's nicely put.
Thank you, buddy.
Too much about me though, but it's cool. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited. We've been excited about this conversation. We've been teed up for a little while, and I'm so excited to get some time with you. And yeah, that's the thing we want people to hear. I know I could have put a traditional bio on there that would have been full of a highlight reel. And we mentioned a couple of highlights because I think it's important for people to have a little context. But more than anything, I want people to know the guy behind the music, the guy behind the art, the guy behind the craft.
Yeah.
And you've been living that story out loud, it feels like, over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And yet haven't talked about it too much.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are. I'm happy. I'm ready. And I'm so excited. I think, like I told you, this is kind of my first legit podcast. I did one with a friend a couple months ago. He pulled me in a little okie doke while I was sick, but this feels so right, and it feels just the right thing because especially how I'm connected to Onsite and how that's a part of my journey. So this feels right, and I'm happy to be here.
When was that? When was your Onsite intersection?
Man, that was top of 2023, I think.
Yeah.
Either end of 2022 or top of 2023, where me and Hannah, my wife, came. We did 3 days, and we did not know what we were in for, but we were in for a treat. And I think what I was thinking about this morning was like, I was thinking about that time. I was like, I wasn't even ready to fully be honest at that time. And I think we spent 3 days and had one of the best therapists that I've ever met. And we unpacked certain things, and there was still so much I was holding back. So I always think about just how even that is a part of the story, and later down the road how everything just unraveled. But it's still, that was kind of like the first crack away of like my internal thing, like, oh, there's so much more here that I'm afraid of. And now I'm here almost 3 years later, on the other side of a bunch of things I never thought I would be over. So it feels amazing. It's crazy sitting here across from you right now.
It feels like that's one of the things that people often take away that are sometimes surprised when they walk into a journey of unpacking how to optimize their life and relationship, which always comes with, where's the baggage? How do I evaluate it? What have I been carrying? How's it been gridlocking me in some places. But often there's honesty, and then there's another level of honesty.
Yeah.
And often it's so common. And I'm a student of this work as much as I am somebody that helps facilitate it, in that I do my own work. I show up every spring with the same group of guys. We've been doing it for 15 years and just really getting in the weeds and unpacking our story. And then my wife and I do a little tune-up every couple years. And every time I show up, and I know what's behind the curtain at this point, you won't find a bigger believer. I'm a little bit biased because I'm such a part of it. But it's been so beneficial to my story. But the message that really needs to be told usually is a little bit in front of where the messenger's ready to go. Even on my good years, like there's some years my wife and I aren't necessarily in any kind of strain or stress. We're just there almost like, how do we prevent it or to build on what we have? And even showing up there's always more once we start digging a little bit. And I appreciate you highlighting that, because I think some people are surprised that you come in and you think you're ready to tell the truth. And then when you find psychological safety in a container where you're not going to get judged, you're like, whoa, there's more truth here than I even imagined.
Exactly. That's what it is. More truth there.
And that discovery period, I think, is such a good catalyst for where you go from here. So I'm interested in what other takeaways from that season of life that you've carried forward to today.
Yeah, so I think it was top of 2023. And we left that, and that was Hannah's first time ever being in therapy in a space like that. So while there was stuff that she unpacked, there was so much of my stuff that came to the surface, and I definitely watered it down. I think one of the biggest takeaways, I went to Onsite, and then November in 2023, after a crazy season of, there was so much even to my story that I didn't even, I had a lot of disassociation, a lot of things that I didn't even connect with. There was a special piece to my story that I had only told Hannah, hadn't told none of my family, and I didn't even know for sure if it happened. I just feel like this thing happened, and around sexual abuse when I was younger. And later that year, about August, September, my whole life just kind of started falling apart as I remembered and started having flashbacks and stuff, and I spiraled just uncontrollably. In November that year, I went to an inpatient rehab for 40 days. And I think when your question, like, what did I take away from that first experience, is that, one, there is a such thing as safety. I think one of my, what we would call, core beliefs before rehab was like, I'm not safe anywhere. And that there was no place I could tell my full story. There was no place I could fully unravel and still be okay after, or still be seen as a human, a lovable person after. So I think that first experience showed me and opened up a piece of my heart. It was like, okay, there is a place that's safe. There's a place that you can tell your story. You can tell about the things that may even feel scary. I mean, there's still parts of my story, even 2.5 years after rehab and addressing stuff and living in recovery, that are still just a little daunting. And as the more I work through. So I think that first takeaway was safety, which is everything to me. And now surrounding myself with people who, first it starts internal, of course, but surrounding myself with people who promote that safety and allow me to be human. And because being in church and being a Christian artist is such an interesting thing. There's not a lot of room for humanity often in the culture we live in. So safety was probably my biggest takeaway from that season.
Well, you might have noticed my response that when you shared that second part of your story, it was like, here's step one. My wife and I jumped in the deep end. We unraveled some things, and then some things came up later that I needed to go address, and I went and addressed them. I went and did 45 days here. I smiled when you said that because I have this sense of pride and familiarity that comes up when I sit across other humans that have tackled the demons and really gone there. It's rare air. And it's something that I think I'm so fond of it because I've walked a similar redemption journey. But I just wish more of the world. I remember when I came out of my own treatment experience in my early or mid-20s, I came out, I went in thinking this is the worst possible thing that could ever happen to my life story. that it got so bad I had to go somewhere. And that was an old message I carried, was that if you need help beyond what you can solve, then you're a problem. That may not be able to be solved ever. Boy, did I have it backwards. My whole world opened up when I allowed people to come into my story and show me grace and not judgment. And I left having experienced what I wrote down on a napkin that day when I left treatment, which was 2 words called human school. And I thought, this wasn't rehab. This wasn't treatment. This wasn't punitive, and it wasn't a punishment. It was the first time my little kid felt like I could rest and feel safe and shine and tell my truth. And that wasn't anything other than the school and education I always deserved. I don't even know that anybody needs it, but we all deserve it. And so I literally came out of there thinking, how do we get the whole world in 30 days of treatment? Because I went in there thinking this is something, I came out thinking everybody needs this. After doing a little bit more of my work, I was like, actually, everybody deserves this. And how do we, and we don't need to take the whole world to rehab. Maybe you should write about that. That'd be kind of cool. But I do think we need to create cultures like you and I got to experience in the safety of just pure truth and honesty. And I'm wondering how that's informing you as a creative, how you've come out of that, and how has it affected what you write and how you show up in your relationships and how you're navigating the complicated world of entertainment. And by the way, I love what you said about that mainstream Christianity and that being a genre that you spent your time in. I do want to talk about that because I think there's a fascinating layered experience of how come it's so void of what you and I got to experience in 45 days.
Yes, sir.
But how's it influencing you now? How's it showing up for you?
Man, it creatively, first, it is, I think what the thing behind, I know there's a lot of labels and genres and things attached to what I do and the kind of music, but all of it starts from moments of honesty. And whether it's, a song with a mainstream pop artist or whether it's a song with a big Christian artist, these songs that I write always come from a place of looking in the mirror and talking to my higher power and really assessing who I am. And it's like, it's whether it's a prayer or it's a moment of frustration, these songs creatively come out of just time in the mirror and time being able to really assess and be self-aware of who I am. So I think working the recovery and working after that season of life, it has drastically informed. I mean, I'm working on an album now that is more honest and more vulnerable than I've ever been, and it's only because I found the safety in it. And now I'm not afraid of telling the story or talking about the dark parts, because it's. I love Human School. I love that name. That is exactly what it is. It's opening a door, allowing people to see my wounds, allowing people to see my scars, and especially in the world that I originally come from, allowing people to know, like, hey, it's okay. Like you don't have to always be this Superman, almost be this example. And being a PK, my dad's a pastor, so I kind of grew up with this pressure of even kids my age or kids older than me, like, you're the pastor's son, you kind of got to set an example. And it's like, it's not, that pressure no one can live under ever. And I always say we were not designed to be this pinnacle of example for other humans. We were just only designed to be on the same page. And
say that again.
Yeah, we're not designed to carry the example of perfectionism or the example of other people to look to up here. And I think the vulnerability of being a celebrity in whatever world you're in is that there is this eyes up thing on you, and what people are not satisfied as human nature, all of us, what we are not satisfied in our own lives, or what we feel like we are not good at or broken or suck at in life, we try to attribute to somebody else. It's like, oh, if they're good at it, then I could be good at it. So then when that person falls or fails, or you realize, oh, they're not who I imagine them to be, it almost is this disappointment thing, and you get all these weird kind of cultures. So I am excited about opening up my life in a way that shows scars, that shows like, hey, even if you have this image or perception of me, outside of what I do, there's two sides. Two things can be true, and I'm that's one thing it's taught me creatively. But personally, man, I can't. I get emotional, a little bit emotional talking about it. I was one of the first people in my family to do therapy this way, and I come from a line of a religious background, but my parents nor my family were like strict. They weren't like, and I have friends who family couldn't watch movies, couldn't watch TV, couldn't go to parties, but my parents weren't like that. But my family did come from a tension. I have alcoholics in my family. I have all kind of stories in my family, and I was the first to go to a place like this, and I brought my notebook I traveled with my notebook, and a letter fell out from my mom when I was getting it this morning, and I won't read the whole thing, but the last thing she said was like, you did it on the letter. And I think most more than anything, more than creatively, which is great, and everybody, the world will hear one day, but more than anything, knowing that I set a new path for my friends and my family and even my kids one day, to know. I have 4 kids, and when I went away for 40 days, when I was leaving the house, at the time my oldest was 6, so he's really the only one that kind of understood what it was, not really understood, but I told him like, Dad's going away for a little bit to retreat, just to get better and be a better person. And being there and knowing that in the middle I couldn't see it, but reading that and my mom telling like, son, you did it. Like you went through the hard thing, and now the effect it's having on my relationships. Like my friends, I was like, every time we talk, you feel like I'm talking to a therapist, but it's like the work that we do, the work that it takes to walk out recovery in whatever level that you're in, and to just be a human who is in touch with yourself and who is self-aware and aware. It changes conversations. It changes relationships. It's like you become vulnerable with the right people quicker, and you become safe with the right people. And so the effect that it's had on my relationships have been a world of a difference. And I I had a best friend. The way my addiction is I had a best friend of 15 years who didn't even know, and who didn't even have signs. I was living in so much secrecy and just hiding out and living in so much pain. And now our relationship, it has added almost like 10 years that's not even there on our relationship, because there is a safety there and because of the work I've done. So it's changed so much creatively, but relationally on a personal level, I would have never imagined that relationships can be this full and could be this just fruitful of just life and being able to be safe as a human.
Ah, gracious. We could just package that up right there. I'll take some of that.
Yeah.
You know what I feel when I'm talking to you is just a sense of freedom and how you're moving about the world right now. And I had another friend of mine that's a great creative, also living into a really beautiful redemption story like us. And he said creating before was a confined gift.
Wow.
And I said, say more about that. And he said, well, clearly it was God gave me a gift of being able to create. He said, but I always felt confined when I did it. And he said, and my gift shouldn't feel like jail. He said, now I create and I feel free. And I said, what's kind of cool is when you're a creative and you're leaning into your gift in such a free and honest way, you emulate the very gift that you're benefiting from. And my guess is the way you're talking about how your friends are receiving you right now is that you're not just probably walking a path of feeling free and in grace. You're probably giving that as a gift to the people that interact with you. And that's what I love, because guys like you, we get to know you on stage. And inevitably there's a performance element to great artists. And performance can be dressed up as protection. Yes. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, we all do it. You just happen to do it with a lot more eyes and ears than I do, and most of us. But we all can kind of become performative as a way to protect a part of ourselves that we feel will be rejected. And the reality is it gets a bad rap, but our instincts were probably right. There's probably a part of us that without context, we would have felt rejected. And I bet you tested the waters a few times and you didn't get what you ultimately did receive, and it was like, whoop.
Yep. It is what, when I first got out of Genopath and I met my therapist, who's one of the best I've ever had, and one of the first ideas that we tackled was exactly what you're talking about, that testing the waters, and what she called it was that faux intimacy. And faux intimacy meaning like there were relationships that I had that I would intentionally almost like splurge certain parts of my story, and like with no connection. I mean, because before I went through like trauma therapy and all this stuff, there were certain parts of my story that I had disassociated so hard from, and I was not emotionally. I could talk about certain just things that would make me tear up now, and I kind of would get a little tense now, and I could talk about it with no emotional, no mental reaction, just kind of almost laugh about it. And it was, looking back, like even sometimes I talk to Hannah, and she would be like, yeah, you would say that and like laugh. And so that's how disconnected I was. But something I would do is I would share part of my story to see and study how people react, and see if it was safe enough for me to really show who I was in a moment. So that performance really did become a bubble. It became a way to see if you can accept this, then maybe let's inch and keep seeing. And yeah, I mean, especially in the spaces I've come from, the rejection was heartbreaking, and it was, and a lot of, now I have a healthier view. Back then I kind of just harbored as rejection and let it live in bitterness and kind of live in disappointment. But a lot of it was rejection, but not from a place of people intentionally pushing me away. But a lot of it was just ignorance. A lot of people, I didn't even know how to deal with what I was dealing with. So it's almost a little hypocritical of me to expect somebody else to know how to deal with it and know how to hold me and know how to have me safe and know how to, take care of me. So there was a lot of rejection, and I am looking back and I'm grateful for it, because it pushed me into finding the thing that works and really digging and really working through the things, and not taking the easy way out of dumping on someone, and not taking the easy way out of trying to have somebody else carry my story. But it forced me to isolate myself enough to where it was only me that I had to look in the mirror with and be like, I have to figure this out. I can't rely on anybody else. And again, because of my religious background, it's easy to get in certain spaces and put all the responsibility on somebody else to take care of me, and all the responsibility on somebody else to hold my hand and walk me through. But during that time, I was in my 20s, I'm 30 now, but it taught me how to really be honest with myself and to take responsibility. And that rejection led to personal responsibility. And now I can't be any more grateful for the doors and the people that kind of shut off and almost didn't know how to handle me, because it walked me and intentionally led me to the spaces that did. And now I have the experience, and now I have the story, now I have the emotional capacity to handle people who may. And now that when you do the work, my friend said this will happen. I got honestly tricked into going to recovery rehab. My friend went, and he was like, there's going to be pools, they got basketball courts, they have beautiful bedrooms. It's a vacation. He sold it like, I was like, okay, I think I could do it. And they were complete opposite. But I get it. And now going and now having been, I now have the emotional capacity to know and see when people are struggling with that faux intimacy, and they're trying to, their bodies are just trying to find ways to leak out enough to let somebody know, like, hey, I'm not okay, I'm not, and I'm glad that I went through that, because it helps other people so much now.
I see, and once you've seen that part of your story, and what happens in spaces and places like you're describing is you don't just see, it's not just a solo journey.
Yes,
you're
sir.
Alongside other people, and so there's all these mirror moments.
Absolutely.
Where you're seeing your story through other people, and sometimes it's the first way we are able to see, tolerate, and digest the parts of our stories we've been scared to look at, is to see it in somebody else we relate to.
Yes, sir.
And it's like, I still love that person.
Yes, sir.
they're really a good human.
Yeah.
I can see that. And then there's this quarter turn. It's like, am I talking about them or am I talking about me? Because if I can still love them at their worst, then how can I begin to love me and lean into, this message? But you're also describing a moment that most all of us that are still striving to live in congruence and to live free, to live a story of recovery, whatever language you want to use, redemption, grace, depending on
I love congruence.
Yeah, me too.
That's what it is.
Whether it's faith or whatever the path is, you're trying to chase congruence. And we have this moment, which you described as I had to eventually look in the mirror and take responsibility. I think there's a natural arc to the recovery process that we learn over and over and over and over and over and again, that once we evaluate the things that hurt us, and they don't stop hurting us just because we get whole.
Yeah.
It's not like
Absolutely.
life gets rosy.
That's great.
It still does this.
Yes, sir.
It's just we're a little bit more equipped,
Yes,
I
sir.
think, and have the tools to be able to navigate some of the bumps, and they don't take us out and make us go medicate and cause damage and things like that. But there is an arc where you go from it being all your life circumstances to you evaluate them. You need to grieve certain parts of them. I think it's okay to be angry at those of us that have had perpetrator experiences and abuse survivors. I think you got to go through those emotions. And then you come all the way around and suddenly you realize the reins are really mine to take about what happens next. Yeah. And the only way forward, the only change I can hope to create is change that I'm responsible for. Yeah. Now, obviously, I, in my belief is I'm a Christian, but I think there's a lot of other religions that believe this too, that we lean on something else in that journey, lean on, like you refer to as a higher power, in my case is God. But really it's our responsibility alongside influence, support, somebody that has our back. And man, once you take that responsibility, you start to realize what's possible.
Yes, sir.
Because the change that you've been waiting on and hoping that if the person that hurt me will finally wake up and realize they did, and they'll finally come and do this, this, and this, and you realize that has nothing to do with it. And everything that goes forward is what I can actually control. It's one of my favorite versions of the Serenity Prayer. I'll share it in a minute, which is you flip it all and realize that you're the only one responsible for the change that you hope to seek. I want to stop here for a minute and just acknowledge that we're having a very human conversation. And sometimes these conversations can be a little activating, especially if you might be struggling with what we're talking about here. And if you are, I just want to make sure you feel supported. And we've got some resources that I stand behind, and we also know a whole lot of resources in the mental health and wellness space. But the one that I most want to share with you is called Onsite Wellness, and we've got a retreat center outside of Nashville and another one outside San Diego in Southern California, offer multi-day experiences and workshops, and they are phenomenal. It's the most transformational thing I've ever personally done, and that's why I continue to do them year after year. And we get to support a few thousand people a year, and it's not going to be a fit for everybody for a number of reasons, and that's okay. You can give us a call anyway, and we'll connect dots with other resources if we're not the one. But I hope you'll give us a chance to take a look at what we're doing, because I stand behind a team that I believe are some of the most special, heart-led experts, clinicians, and humans on the planet. And I love getting to do what they do. It's because of what they do that I'm here talking to you and getting to do what I do. So check us out at experienceonsite.com. Did you have a mirror moment that's real distinct that you can remember, where you looked in the mirror and that thing happened for you, where it was like, whew? And forgiveness may have been a part of the backstory. It may not have, but did you have a mirror moment where you're like, all right, I'm responsible for this change? And what was that like for you?
I feel like I'm trying to decide which one. I feel like I've had
which one to share? Well, we got time, man.
I've had so many. I think the most impactful mirror moment for me was right before I went to General Path, and I went November 2023. And in October, I had so many different things. I mean, I was feeling all of, things from abuse as a kid and trauma as a kid, and then had some personal and business matters going on, had some betrayal happening. So it's like everything kind of was happening at once. And I did something. I ended up acting out and doing something I said I would never do. And I even in addiction, at least in my experience, I had certain lines that just kind of mental lines. It was like, yeah, I would never do that. I would never, even if I did everything else, and I did the thing I said I would never do. And I remember coming back home, coming back around family, and being in so much shame and being in so much fear of almost myself and like what I had become and what this meant. I had chalked off all these things because whenever I draw lines in the sand, I'll never do this. On the other side, I have attached so many things to imagine, just that if I did this, that means I'm this. That means I'm this. That means I'll end up like this. That means, and a flood of that happened. And I remember this friend who tricked me into going, calling me, and he just checking on me, and he could see in my eyes that something had happened, and so grateful for how clever and wise he was, because once I was in that addictive state and kind of that cycle, and you still trying to play the game, and your brain is doing all this stuff, is still trying to protect itself, and he said something to me that that I don't think I even told him what was the start of me opening up to myself, not even anyone else. And at that moment, it was so deeply impactful that in the hardest days, I mean, there was such a hard day in rehab, and I was literally like gonna call somebody. I was like, yeah, come, I'm done, and I want to leave, and because he had walked through a certain experience. It kept me. I mean, and still sometimes I've written in my mirror, and one day when I do this, I feel like I'm gonna sit down with you a couple of times. I want to share exactly what it was, but it's so close to me that I may not be able to recover if I say it out loud. But it kept me, and then from that day, I kind of let all the guards down, even if I didn't tell anybody, and let somebody walk me and take me and tell my family, like, yeah, he's gonna go. And I think that was probably the most transformational mirror moment that started the journey of so many more mirror moments. I'll say the second most powerful one. Whenever I left, after I came from the 45 days of treatment, for 3 months I worked with my therapist on what we call a disclosure, therapeutic disclosure. And it is, I mean, you know what it is, but for people who don't know, it is when you take all of your acting out and all of the things you have done and kept in hiding from your partner, and you write it out. And I remember it took me 3 months to write everything out because I was so disassociated from my story that the more I started talking about it, the more I kept remembering things. Oh, this and oh, this and oh, that. And in March of 2024, a couple of days before my birthday, I sat down, my therapist, Hannah's therapist, and read off 4 to 5 pages of things I had kept hidden. And man, to this day, it's one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing I've ever done. And I think it's why I say it's a mirror moment, is because there's nothing like sitting across from the person who, to a certain extent, knows you better than anyone. And even the things that she didn't know by knowledge, she knew by, just because she's a woman and she knows who I was. But that mirror of having her eyes looking at me while I'm falling apart, reading and saying these things was a mirror that I still hold today. And that probably was one of the most transformational mirrors too.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing both of those. I think there's probably a lot of people listening that might be able to relate to where you were in that moment. I've been there too, and I've got some moments like that. And I love that you immediately were like, which one do I tell? Which mirror are we talking about? There's been quite a few, and there are. And I like that you started and said one of mine happened before I even went to the treatment process. Yeah. Often, sometimes we describe that as kind of a bottom, but I rather describe it as a kind of an ember moment, because I really think that those of you that are out there right now that are cloaked in shame, and I know more people are than aren't because I see the state of the world, significant, a lot of polarity, a lot of divide, a lot of frustration. And I know that's a big flag that we're starving for connection. We're starving for to connect and love each other. But I think if you're out there and you're feeling like you're wearing a 10,000 pound suit and struggling to tell your truth, I'm an outdoorsman and I love fire. I love all the elements.
Yeah.
But I'm
a little pyro myself.
Are you?
A little bit.
I just love fire. I think I call it Channel 1. I could just literally sit and watch a fire for hours. The original. But we did one, we stayed at a buddy of mine's farm like 4 nights ago. He and I are coaching a basketball team together, an 8 and 9-year-old basketball team, my son and his son. And we'd stayed there the night before and had a really nice fire. And then we coached and got back there like at 2 o'clock the next day. So the fire went out at, I want to say like midnight. I don't know, so do the math. It was 2 p.m. the following day. And we go back out there, and I just had a stick, and I started digging underneath the ash. And I dug until I saw just a tiny bit of smoke. And then I dug a little bit more, and then I saw a coal. And I blew on the coal, and it turned red. And I thought, there's an ember. I wonder if we can make another flame. And so he was standing over by the wood pile, kind of like your buddy was standing in the wings waiting to tell you his truth. And I said, hey, grab a piece of wood and let's put it on there and see what happens. And sure enough, it started to smoke. And we had a fire again after all that time. And I would say to you that if you feel like right now that you see no sign of an internal fire in you, you're not feeling any grace, any love, you're feeling a tremendous amount of shame, look out for that ember. And don't be afraid to ask a friend to carry some wood for you.
Yeah.
And I love that I love that you were, I should ask you what the adjective is. So I'm going to put my own adjective in to describe my experience of your experience. It may not fit, but I could see you searching for what do I tell here? And what do I hold sacred? And that's a clumsy process.
Yes,
it's kind of
very
like,
messy.
Yeah, especially when you're here and you lights and cameras. But I want to acknowledge that and affirm you for that. And that you and I think that's recovery in action, is the performer didn't turn on and be like, well, let me say the thing that I know is going to impress the people and the guy in front of me. It was like, no, I have learned a different way. What's sacred to me right now in my story? What's sacred to my friend who's a part of it? What part needs to get told right now? And how can I honor this and know that someday the time will be right to tell it? And maybe it'll be us. But I think that's so important that, I think when we discover truths in our lives, it's like this little internal light turns on. I guess the fire I talked about externally as a metaphor is in us.
Absolutely.
And sometimes if you've had years of darkness, you need to hold that light for yourself and the people around you before you're ready to share it to the world. I see this happen all the time where people see vulnerability trending and how sexy it is now. And it happens a lot in speakers and authors and pastors and artists. Anybody that's got a stage, it's like, man, I know what the people want. Let's get in there and give them some vulnerability. But you're not congruent with it.
Yeah.
And I don't see you doing that. I see you really trying to live into your integrity and congruence. And so I appreciate what you shared about that first part, and I appreciate that you didn't share more than you were ready to share. I think that was a great teaching for me and for all of us to see.
It is exactly. I'm glad you helped me see that. It is very messy, and I think even my team and like I said, this is the first podcast that I'm really doing, and I think it was important that it was with you and with this idea and what you're doing, because not just a part of my journey, but this has been my life for the past 2.5 years, and I think so much of the culture and even the music industry that I'm a part of, and exactly what you're saying, it's like vulnerability is for sale now, and because I am a performer and that is a part of me, and I can live rooms. It's one of my favorite things to be into live rooms and do things with people and share my story. I think that tension and the messy and what you said, clumsy, is so good. Of what do I share? What is for us in here, and keeping safe has been a delicate thing, for sure. So I'm glad you acknowledged that for me. That was
well. It's good for all of us to see that. Be careful with your truth. You know, so you need more of it than you may perceive. And it's not that you can't inspire others, because what you shared was inspiring I think for a lot of us. We don't often have to have all the details to understand the relevance and how we can relate to it. Often in the therapeutic process, we will kind of go backwards with a breadcrumb trail versus forward. It's like you have to. The goal for a lot of us is how do we connect the dots and make sense of our story so that we can live. You can't connect what you haven't collected, and so first often we're going back. It's like what dots do we need to connect? And I'm curious, what did you learn about that younger you? How you came up? What are some themes that you learned along your therapeutic journey?
Yeah, the term I've coined for me is narrative of my childhood story, because I think for me, having so much trauma that I've either just, my brain is just blacked out or just separated from, I definitely had to spend some time gaining the narrative, and still am gaining the narrative of who I was as a kid and cherishing that. I mean, the part where that became more important was when I was in trauma therapy, and it was they did this practice, like just imagine you as a kid, take a picture of you as a kid in your mind and one of the safe places you had, and from there you would do some work there in your mind, and that was the hardest part for me, because the only picture I had and could imagine in my head at the time that it came up was, I had this picture of me outside of my school that my mom had showed me at one time, and I was just pouting. I was staying outside, just being a
what 6, 7. Just big bottom lip.
I was just kind of like probably not wanting to take a picture or something. But
my son has my exact pout face. I mean, he puts that bottom lip out. When I look at pictures, most of my pictures at his age are the same way. So I'm just imagining you. What age?
I had to be 6 or 7.
Okay.
I had to be 6 or 7, and so it was the only picture I had, and one of the narratives and the things, the breadcrumbs that I've learned is most of my childhood I lived so internal, and it makes sense. It's not a negative thing, because I'm still such a I'd say I'm an extrovert by career, but introvert in like real life. But I live so internal, and I think the narrative that I'm establishing is that as a kid, there was so much happening around me, and I think I was pretty intuitive, and I didn't know how to. Before I was in therapy, compartmentalization was only a negative idea. But now that I've worked through recovery, sometimes it's healthy for me to compartmentalize certain areas of life, because that's that, this is this. And you have to show up kind of in different spaces, especially when you're an entertainer and a performer. But I don't think I knew how to do that as a kid. I mean, who knows how to do that as a kid? But I didn't really know how to do that or learn as a kid with trauma. And so the narrative and the breadcrumbs I've been picking up is my as a kid, I was a intuitive, smart, nice kid who picked up and observed a lot, especially for those of us who grew up in religious environments. It's almost like I grew up in a house that a lot of elephants in the room, like a lot of things unspoken. So you kind of had to process your own reality, even if whether it was or it wasn't, you almost just had to determine it yourself. and like, well, I see this, I see that, and nobody really talks about it. So I think the breadcrumbs for me have led to this moment of, I tell my friends all the time, trusting my reality is so big, because you can be told so many things, and while it may be true from someone else, and while somebody else's experience may be true, two things can be true at one time. That congruence can be interesting when you're holding two things that are opposite, but trusting my reality. And then the nuance of life. The nuance of life has been a big narrative for me, especially as a person of faith and a Christian too. My faith doesn't always. Okay, I don't want to get too deep in faith, but like, two things can be true in faith, and if the pinnacle of my personal beliefs and my personal religious beliefs, the pinnacle of my Christianity is my Savior dying on the cross, and that's the pinnacle of faith and Him resurrecting. So death is a part of, sacrifice is a part of my story, and the nuance of life and death, and the nuance of love and pain, and the nuance of hope and regret sometimes has been just a beautiful part of my journey that I'm now, as a 30-year-old and as a parent and in relationships, am now learning how to hold properly. So that's been probably like two of my breadcrumbs through life that I look back and like, okay, I can see this at 16. I can see this at 12. I can see this at 8 even, what I remember about 8. And I can see this all throughout life, is learning how to hold two things that feel almost opposite at times, but can be true. And respecting both as different as they may feel, that nuance, and that's been a big part of the breadcrumbs of narrative.
Man, there's one of my favorite writers, and he writes a lot about spirituality. He's a Franciscan monk. Franciscan priest.
Yes, I think we're talking about the same person.
Richard Rohr?
Yes.
Yeah, Father Rohr.
Yes.
Yes. You've read some of his work then.
Oh. Yeah. Yes. I think
Can y'all look and make sure I'm getting...
Yeah, he's a Franciscan priest.
Okay, cool.
He is.
I just want to respect
Richard
him.
Rohr. Yes, He is. The GOAT. I've never met him. I hope to meet him one day. He is a legend. I think after treatment, the thing treatment did for me was with my story, and because forgiveness is almost holding two things that feel opposite but can be true at one time. That when we live in forgiveness, and not even just as a Christian, but just as a spiritual, practical principle of life, when I live in forgiveness, I have to acknowledge wrongdoing. I have to acknowledge, like, that shouldn't have happened. That was wrong that happened. But I also have to release the debt of what. It's like I cannot hold over that person, over that thing anymore, and forgive. And then after treatment, he has a book. Yeah, he has a book that I dove into that really helped me with this nuanced narrative.
I bet we read the same. So I had a chance. I have gotten a chance to meet him a couple of times, and I went out and sat with him. It was like 20 leaders for 3 days out at his place, and it was remarkable. And then I got to interview him one time, which was really even cooler. Wow. But I like the way that he thinks. I know he can be a little controversial in faith circles, but he really drives home the concept of what I think he calls dualistic thinking, or dual thinking, where you're holding perspective on both, and one thing can be true and you can still question. You know, because we were, I think I was taught is like, questioning is a bigger sin than don't even question. Yes, which for an intuitive, creative, that's a problem. That's a conflict right out of the gate.
Okay,
this is getting warmed up.
Yeah, I mean, faith for me has just been the journey of life. Not just because I love God and my religious belief, but I feel like at the end of the day, every spiritual, I feel like we're all spiritual beings. Spirituality always ends at the mystery of what is this? And I think if I call myself a Christian and I believe in the God that I do, he comes with more questions than answers. I think in my faith, I have been in environments that are so afraid of questions, because then that means that I don't have a hold on what I think I do. But there's a passage in the Bible that I really love, and it's David. My middle name's David, so I love the Psalms and I love what David writes. But he talks about, one thing have I desired, and one thing that I seek after, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And he says to inquire in his temple. So it creates this imagery for me of faith, that even David, who, faith requires is a man after God's own heart. Even David went into God's presence asking questions. And I think the moment where questions stop is the moment where we really lose a grip on spirituality, because faith is a mystery. Faith at its essence is groping in the dark, searching for truth that may be there, that is revealed later. And I think that has been, if anything, as far as my spiritual faith life, that I kind of got bubbled up, that I am always talking about with fellow Christians, is like, we have to almost lean more into the question, because we will never figure it out. If we could figure God out, he would not be God. And I am now okay with question, because I'm okay with dualistic and nuance. And it is drastically changed how one of my favorite teachers say, the God you see is the God you get. And how that perception of God is everything, and treatment, and that dualist has just changed my whole perspective and opened my eyes to really who God is for me, and has walked with me in this treatment thing. And it is so, yeah, you kind of gave me chills to say.
Well, gosh, you said likewise. I'm just so into so we've arrived at a common point.
Yes.
It's like, we could camp out here for 2 hours. I think and talk about what we've learned from some of that line of thinking, and I don't think it just applies to faith. I love the way that you said that, but it's also with our own human experience. The minute we start questioning ourselves and our process and how we're showing up in the world, I think it's dangerous. It's so funny how certainty, when you're raised around it, it goes from comfort to, once you unpack your world and disassemble a few things and put it back together, whenever you see it, it's almost like, be careful. If you're not willing to question any part of your narrative, then I'm always quite worried about that. I think that's where that chasm kind of starts to grow. But for it's often the person in a system. You talked about you're the first person that has gone and done kind of therapy. I was the first person that went and did therapy in my family as well. And we weren't really a therapy family. We didn't grow up in that culture. And it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it was anti-study of human behavior or psychology, but we definitely were like, our faith is in God, and studying ourselves is self-serving. All that stuff. And so, but it's really shifted a paradigm. But I go all the way back to when I was a kid. And I really do think I was born uber curious in a world that was very contained and almost certain. And there's no room for curiosity with certainty. And so I always was, so I went, you go internal, and you're constantly processing and thinking and trying to figure it out. And so many artists that I'm friends with, and I think that's why I'm drawn to the artist community, is because it's just where I found my tribe, is in order to put good art in the world, or art in general in the world, you have to become a vessel to be able to download everything around you in your environment, and then somehow process it and pull it back up to the surface and put it together in some mosaic, whether it be a song or a painting or a film. And there's a vulnerability to that, because some of the stuff, I know this from being a helping professional, is I consume a lot of the world's pain on a daily basis. I shouldn't say the world, but just a fair amount, just talking to people, downloading hard parts of their stories. And there's no way that some of that doesn't stick. it sticks. And they call it vicarious or secondary stress or trauma. And now the only reason I bring this concept out is I'm a little further down the road. I'm a little further. I'm a lot older than you. So
you don't look it.
You're
That's
so
great.
Confidently saying I'm 30 and I hadn't said my age yet. That's just fine. But as an older person, a little further down the road, but really feeling a kinship with you, and knowing now that musically you're headed in a direction of wanting to do some of what I do, which is to share your mental wellness journey through your music and through your oratory ability and through your faith journey. And I'm so proud of that. I'm so excited about that. And it'll come with a lot of people are going to want to unpack their stories with you, because when you get brave enough to tell your truth, then you also start holding the truth for other people.
Yes, sir.
Biggest honor of my life.
Yes, sir.
Biggest blessing of my life. And I think I was wired to do it. And I think you probably are too. And if all we do is consume, and I found I usually get here about every 5 years, weirdly. But man, I catch it so much faster now. Where I stop focusing and questioning it and curious about my own story, because I'm so hyper focused on holding other people's, that suddenly I feel burned out or something. And I'm like, what's this about? I stop being present at home. My relationship starts turning into just ships in the night. And I'm like, what's missing here? And usually it's I have neglected the thing I know to do, which is offload some of the pain I consume, just like I did for my own process. So I just want to encourage you, and that's the only reason I shared that, is you're getting ready to go do something incredible, which I know we're getting ready to talk some more about, like how you weave your redemption story into your messaging and go from maybe inspiring people to impacting people. Feels like you're headed on an impact journey, which I'm like, yes, let's go. But it should never come at the cost of you.
Yes. That is good. That is, I mean, I have a question for you. I'm like,
fire away.
I was, as an artist, like what guardrails, I mean, me and my manager and team have been, one thing we've been talking about is not leaving a world, but I am, like you're saying, it's definitely gone from inspiring to impact. And that's the word that has been keep coming up, just transformational impact. And I think as an empath and as somebody who does love holding truth, what are some guardrails or some tools that help unload and offload? And especially even, I mean, I have some, like, even after treatment, one thing I used to do after I got off the stage and perform, usually, I would kind of get back into the minutia and whatever. But a thing I started doing was I'll get in a room by myself, 5 to 10 minutes, and I'll just do affirmations, like just to get what my therapist was always talking about, is to switch my brain out of performer mode. I am a son. I am a father. I am a friend. I am loved. I am worthy. And I wonder that was in that space. I wonder what are some things like that you maybe you use, or that would be helpful for me to offload that, holding truth, which is great, but not having that secondary thing happening.
Great question. I think it kind of sort of starts moving into what we've now coined in humanity as people call it self-care. And self-care has gotten so broad that, like a lot of other topics that came out of psychology, it's and I'm sure the same things happen in mainstream faith too, and that's been more your world than mainstream psychology for me, is that once something gets pop culturized, it starts to lose a little bit of its meaning, gets a little watered down. The same way that we're throwing therapy language and diagnosing everybody that stresses us out. It's like every boss we've ever had now is a narcissist, or every relationship that didn't work out, whatever it might be. But I do think there's some good nuggets in the concept of self-care, the original concept. And there's a lot of creative ways to do it, but some of the classics are what you're describing, getting solo intentional time and how you use that time. In your case, did you get a lot of overt affirmation?
I did, but I mean, even till this day, I'm so uncomfortable, and I think it has a lot internal to do, but I would be so uncomfortable with affirmation and compliments and words.
Perfect. So whether the origin story is I didn't get much of it and my response to it is to try to refill my tank now. Yeah. We don't know, so that may not be the full motive. The motive is I struggle receiving affirmation. Yes. I struggle with that concept of hearing. And so therefore I'm going to create a practice that pushes me into the discomfort. That's great. I mean, that's a good instinctual practice. Journaling is something that gets over, it's got a lot of data behind it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's anything, what we're doing, having a real conversation. Yeah. It's like we could be on here, we could spend 2 hours promoting your next project, which we need to spend a little time because I'm excited for people to hear about it. Maybe we are about talking about this. But having a real conversation about what's under the hood, that alone, offloading and getting curious with another person that's not trying to fix, change, or heal you, but they're just with you in the dance, it's huge.
Absolutely.
It's kind of what we call good therapy, but that's one of the problems with my profession I have, and probably the same for you and what you saw in church. And me too. I grew up in church and I still go, and is that it's not really what happens in the building. It fills us up, but it's what we do when we go run into the guy outside that's missing a meal. Yes, and how are we going to show up for him? We're going to notice him, first of all, him or her. And I think in psychology, often you take these complex concepts and we use them in rooms, and it's like, we got to get out of the room, get out of the church basement, the anonymous meetings. They're all great in certain seasons, but we got to go put this stuff into a lived practice. So whatever, I think breathing, meditation, debriefing is so important.
Debriefing.
I love debriefing in just about any conversation. After a show, is there one or two people you just debrief with?
That's great.
I spent a year. I hadn't done like a tour in a long time. I used to do those when earlier in my career because I would come along creatives and help them. And but I went out on one.
Are you done doing it?
I kind of got the bug. I'll be honest. I don't know. Okay. I'm chasing. Right now. I'm in between that. Man, you're a good question asker too.
I'm like,
at least when I'm out,
I have some selfish interest going on right now. I'm like, are you still doing it?
I love seeing what can happen in a theater or an arena or a stadium full of people. To me, I see more transformation and potential for transformation there than I do at the Onsites in the churches of the world. Wow. And that's why I do it. It's like, how do we take 15,000 people and pull them into a therapeutic, psychologically safe, inspired experience? And maybe they walk out different. Yeah. So that's why I love accompanying great tours and music. Yeah. But anyway, I was out with my buddy Jelly, and he really is living into his redemption story. And I watched him, and we did a lot of pre-work from going into this tour, and sold out a bunch of arenas and his first big solo tour, and he was doing great. But he found himself about midway through getting pretty tired from the thing that he loved to do. The thing that would energize him is performing. Yeah. He loves putting it, but he was just getting exhausted. And we realized we didn't really have a rhythm for him to offload what he was consuming. He said, "What do you mean? I'm up there pouring stuff out. I'm not taking anything on." I said, "Oh, Baba." I said, read a few signs. Everybody in this audience right now is telling you that I lost my dad to suicide and your music saved my life. My brother's been addicted to meth. Your story is the only hope I have that he might find recovery. When you read that and when you feel that energetic exchange, you're consuming a tremendous amount. You're holding hope for an arena full of people. Yes. And afterwards, there's got to be, you can't hold that on your own. You got to share that weight. And so we found some creative ways for him to share that weight, one of which was debriefing the show. And not just oh my gosh, did you see that moment that popped, or this gimmick really worked, or oh my goodness, this production moment was insane. It was like, that moment, that exchange I had with that dad that lost his kid. Yeah. That wasn't that powerful. And we would emote, we'd cry about it a little bit. And that alone helps hold the story different. Yes. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense. I want to put that in practice. Because it is that energy exchange, and I think I've done 3 or 4 tours, and about that fourth week, I am you're in the fog. I call it the fog. I'm just kind of in the routine and not even really. I've kind of lost myself. I'm kind of like, you just do the show, go to sleep, wake up. My room. I'll stay on the bus till the time of the show. And I remember second tour, I had gotten so fear of failure and especially in the world I was in, the religious world and Christian world, I was so afraid of failing and messing up and at that time dealing with my addictions and one of my people that I was on the road with had to pull me out of my bed before a show. I was just so down and depressed and fearful that I wasn't even going to sing that night. He had to come pull me out of the bed and he talked me out of it. But it's just all to point to that tour thing is a thing for me. Like it is being around the right people. Like I will invest in 2 or 3 people around me that just help me after or feel good, or friends that are just there, because it is tour and that energy exchange you're talking about. It is rough. So I'm excited about adding some new tools like that.
Anything I could do to support, I'd love to work. I love your team so far, who I've met. It's a great team you're assembling, and I think building some rituals and rhythms, just like we talked about in recovery,
and rhythms, yes sir.
In our faith, spirituality, recovery, our marriage, our life, our career, but especially touring. Those rituals and rhythms that will bring our feet back to the ground, because it is such an odd, unique world. Are pretty vital, and it kind of make it more fun and digestible, and and you're gonna have that 3-week moment, and it's just to start to expect it. Say, oh yep, and then when you become more familiar, it's like it doesn't become a week in bed or finding other ways to numb out. It's just like, oh yeah, this is familiar, this is predictable, but now I know what to do. You know, there's other steps I can potentially take to walk out of it. With one thing that we ended up doing after the debrief was it not just we 2 things we say at Onsite all the time are trust the process and celebrate the miracles. And sometimes we forget to celebrate the miracles.
So true.
And we didn't just unpack the hard parts of the evening, or the I didn't even say hard parts, the emotional, inspiring parts. But then we were like, oh man, did you see those 2 girls in Ottawa that held up a sign, desperate for help? They're aspiring social workers, and they don't have tuition to finish their college degree. We can change that.
Wow.
We did change that. We paid for their college. We finished it up. Wow. We were doing that every night, finding little things that we could influence and do. It wasn't all financially motivated. Sometimes it's just giving them a hand up or shooting a video to a person who's on hospice care, whatever. We'd celebrate those, or else you forget them because they come like every meet and greet. And how do you celebrate those moments?
Great.
In the way that your mom did with that letter. You got this. I mean, I the rest of the letter I bet was awesome too, but
I don't mind reading this. My mom is such a. Let me read it. Hey son, this is while I was in treatment. Hey son, today is Saturday, December 2nd, 9:46 a.m. To say I miss you is an understatement. And the fact that I missed your call last night sent me into a spiral of sadness. My heart was so sick, I just had to go to bed. I'm pushing along by faith here. The kids certainly help in bringing me joy and solace. My mom is the best grandma. She is. She jumps in and helps us so much. There's something about their presence that reminds me of you. Our nanny is such a blessing to all of us in this season. She's been here cooking and making me fat. Man, she can cook. We are all so grateful for her in this season. God certainly went before us to bring her into our lives for such a time as this. Your granddad is still fighting with everything in him. He punched me in my belly and pulled my braids simultaneously the other night. My granddad had dementia, and he just passed a couple weeks ago. While getting him dressed for bed, boy, he was in the ornery mood. He seems to have more aware for me now for some reason. Grateful for the time. Crew, my daughter, wakes up demanding what she wants, of course. She's talking more and more. Her vocabulary is expanding daily. She's such a smart, sassy, wild, sweet, beautiful human. But I believe Preston is going to give her a run for her money. That's my 2-year-old, my youngest boy. I call him a rock star. He's a wild, wild boy. He snatches her passy from her often now with a strong pulling grip. Just caught her sneaking in my work bag, doing what she wants, getting into everything she can find. Mama, my grandma, seems to be in good spirits, waiting for her surgery. My grandma at this time, this is great. My grandma at this time was diagnosed with breast cancer. She made it through while I was in rehab. She's still going for every church service and meeting she can find, busybody. Son, I know you are progressing in this space. I know you are healing in this space. I pray such a peace upon you that will be perpetual, that will remain. You deserve it. Keep on doing the work. You deserve the time and space to do it. Everything is being worked out by God, by faith. We believe it to be so. I can't wait to put my arms around you in celebration and congratulations of your commitment and survival during these seasons. You did it. I love you to life.
Come on, Mom.
The best.
Come on, Mom.
She's the best.
You call her Mom or what?
Mom, Ma, all of the things. Sometimes I call her by her first name if she's getting on my nerve. But she is the best. And I mean, I have a plastic bag of letters from friends, from Hannah, from my dad. My kids sent artwork, and I was so much in shame that I didn't read any of them while I was in treatment. And September, I found out, my team told me September was National Recovery Month, so I had finally posted about it on my Instagram. And the day that I posted, I pulled out some of the letters and just sat there and read them, and just became a puddle. But more than anything in this season, I tell the people around me, my team, my manager, and everybody around me, more than anything since 2023, I am grateful for, people for the relationships. People have the story. I've heard so many kind of horror stories of people around certain type of, especially entertainers, and they don't have the right people around them. And I've gone through that a little bit, but more than not, the betrayal of one or two people, I don't even have to think about, because I have been surrounded with such relational, amazing people that at the end of my journey in this entertainment or whatever I decide to do, I know one thing I will never be in regret about is who the people that have surrounded me, whether family, whether friends, and it's been the most rewarding part of this.
Come on. Oh, that letter was so touching because it was so real.
It's so real.
It was like giving you the update, because that's, and I read something. I've been following the trend of the last two generations. Obviously, I'm wildly interested in it because they're going to have the most influence on my kids. And there's some cool things happening. Like, they're not drinking like we did. The alcohol's not as cool as it used to be. But they're looking at health things a little bit more intentionally than we did. And the other thing I saw today was that now it's becoming trendy to go analog.
Wow.
And I thought, because there's something that can't happen in a text. It just can't.
So true.
It was just old school,
so true,
free thought,
so true,
encouragement spliced
so
in,
true,
but also telling you about what's happening in the world.
So true.
It was beautifully done. And here's something cool I'll tell you that I was thinking about is I have been in and around the professional side of the mental health world and the addiction treatment world for most of my career. Traveled with all those, and so I've got relationships with all the programs around the country. Some people would say they're raised by a pack. I was raised by kind of a pack of therapists, which was really a cool thing. About the back half of my 20s, I felt like I was just constantly around this field. And look, when you get behind, I had all the things that you might have when you pedestal an entertainer or a pastor or a church.
Yeah.
I did that with mental health. I was like, if there's anybody that has life figured out, it's probably these people.
Yeah.
And then you get behind the curtain, and we're all this human.
We're all just human.
It's everybody. We're just this big mess. We got a message. I say that for people who might have that vision of people that sit with tools like ours. We're human. We're trying to figure it out, which is why I didn't want this to be a therapy show. I want this to be a human school show.
So good.
But here's the opportunity, and if you're okay with it, I might ask you to read something just one more time.
Yes.
A lot of those folks listen to this, and a lot of them now are letting the patients in their treatment centers listen to this. And that was something I didn't expect, but it's been like a dream come true, because I thought I get to support people with Onsite, my little slice of the world. But there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people in treatment centers all over the world right now who are maybe not reading letters because they just can't bear to see it yet. And that last part, and I want to say this, whether you are a person of faith or whether if you're secular, and even if you don't have a belief in a higher power, these words still, I believe, were written for you. And so just plug in what feels right for you when it comes to some of the faith stuff. But that last paragraph when she said, would you read that to every person in rehab out there today?
Yeah. Son, I know you are progressing in this space. I know you are healing in this space. I pray such a peace upon you that will be perpetual and that will remain. You deserve it. Keep on doing the work. You deserve the time and space to do it. Everything is being worked out by faith. We believe it to be so. I cannot wait to put my arms around you in celebration and congratulations of your commitment and survival during these seasons. You did it.
Come on. I want every one of you out there that are getting a chance to hear this. And you may not be any kind of formal treatment. You might just be in therapy. You might be curious. You might be sitting on your biggest secret, not seeing a way out. And you still deserve to be celebrated.
Still deserve to be celebrated.
Because your mama made a point there about you weren't just putting your life together. You're actually surviving. Yeah. You figured out how to survive. You figured out how to put a foot in front of the other. And you guys did too. So whether you got a minute into this thing or maybe now's the decision you're making. Maybe right now you're hearing two people talk about their own story and it's encouraged you like, maybe I need to make a decision. You did it. Even if you just made that decision today and you hadn't even taken a step out of the darkness, you did it because you made a decision.
You did it.
And that's why we're having this conversation. And that's what I'm excited to see you go do, help a whole lot of people take that step. Because here's why I'm excited. I've been on that journey, for a couple of decades. And what people often don't know is that it's a little self-serving. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. Because I've gotten to where I appreciate the guy that's sitting across from me right now. I don't have an ego about it, but I screw up every day. I'll screw up again tomorrow. But I appreciate the guy sitting over here talking to you. And it's a selfish interest that if I can carry and be of service to other human beings, then it's going to come right back around and make me a better human being. Yeah. And that's why I'm excited about this journey, excited about your words and your mom's words, encouraging all these people, and maybe what you're getting ready to go do with your music and your voice is I hope there's a cyclical, mutually beneficial element.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's coming.
Absolutely. I think because the work has gone in before the music, and the music is now a product of the work that's been put in the personal stuff. And I think sometimes I've done it the opposite way of trying to get the work to do something in me and trying to get the music to do something in me. Sometimes it works like that, but this time it feels special that the work has been done in private for the past 2.5 years and still being done. I like what you said, like you deserve to be celebrated because you took one step. And one of the things in rehab treatment I learned the most was it's the next step that matters. Don't worry about, I think so many times I worried about the next 10 steps. And it's like, no, take your eyes off of the next 10 steps and just worry about the next step. One of my favorite teachers say, look forward, not far. Look at the next step, and you make that next step and celebrate that step. And then let the rest take care of the rest. But I'm excited that the music and the work and the creativity is coming from a place of like, it's present, and it's what I've been working on the past 2.5 years personally, and it's just like an overflow and kind of a product of what's been happening internally. So I'm excited to sing about it, talk about it, and it's gonna be fun. I'm glad to stir the waters a little bit with this world and bring people into it and provide whatever I can to help people like me who didn't see a way out, who didn't even know this world existed, who I didn't even know there was help for someone like me, and walk hand in hand with people I can, whether that's by the music or whether that's by conversations like these. So I'm ready. I'm excited about that impact and doing my little part in this whole thing too. It's gonna be. I'm really excited.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm bringing you on tour.
Hey, I would
Get Miles back out there on tour.
Love to come out to some of it and see it. When's your next tour start?
I don't know. We're planning. We're talking about it. We're hopefully looking at the fall or
Putting
something.
it together.
Yeah, we're putting it together.
That's the fun part of it.
Yeah, I just want to help people. I'm excited.
Deciding when it's going to be and then building it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and I want to talk a little bit about that work and the music and how it's influenced. But before I do, there's a stone I want to make sure I turn over if it's okay. And
yes, sir.
Which is you've talked about your individual and solo journey. You've talked about even your faith journey, which has been beautiful to see how that's kind of evolved and grown. You've talked about the courageous and brave work that you've done with Hannah, your wife.
Yeah.
Talked about your mom, and I'm curious how these new parts of you they feel like you're harvesting in harvest season right now. Yeah. I'm sure you're still planting too. How it's influencing you as a dad.
Oh man, my 8-year-old, the one who was 6 at the time, who I told, so when I went away for 45 days, it was a little abrupt, and it was November, so I got back the day before Christmas. So I missed Thanksgiving and missed some time with the kids, and when I got back from treatment, my 6-year-old had picked up on the language. His mom had told him, Daddy's going to get better and he's going to come back a better person. And now, 2 years later, whenever I'm going to therapy, I can tell. I call my 8-year-old if he's texting me or calling me after school and I'm on my way to therapy. I'm like, hey, son, I'll call you back. And now therapy and the language of internal inspection and human is involved in his life, and he's starting to ask questions, and it has informed our conversation. For me, it's hard to connect with like 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and that I've kind of always felt insecure about. Well, how do I ask them about how their day in school is without, was your day good? Yes. Did you have fun? Yeah. Like, I've always kind of felt a little insecure. I'm like, I don't really know how to connect, but this has made an open path to connect, and it's connected. It helped me connect about faith and other things. But he asked me about meditation one time, and it like, what does that mean? How do you do that? I want to do that, and cool. And it is when my 8-year-old has made a world of difference. But me as a dad, my Hannah would say I parent psychologically a little more now. Like, the kids, instead of the kids crashing out, having a meltdown, I'm kind of like, well, just let them hold them. Like, she's like, no, they need to get their butts beat. It's changed. So sometimes a little obnoxious, but it's changed me as a dad, because now I'm able really to see the human process and the human treat. Like, before treatment, I didn't respect my humanity. I was so shameful of how my brain and how my body decided to deal with trauma, and just so shameful of how my humanity evolved, that I just became just such a negative person about myself. So now it has helped me as a dad affirm my kids more, and if they're struggling, like, see the upside and not take as personal. I think as parents, sometimes it's hard to separate the personal side. If your kids are crashing out, or if your kids are having a bad day, or they're not listening, it's sometimes hard to not take it personal. But now it has helped me reassess, like, okay, maybe what's at work a little more here. And especially in black culture, black people, we always have running jokes of how families, you call in the store, don't touch nothing. If you touch something, you get so like it's a nice balance of, you need to be real, you kind of have to be realistic and disciplined and help, but I think a lot of it has informed the way I parent, in the way it's like, well, let's all take a moment and breathe, and just certain practices, and the way I treat my kids has just been amazingly different. But also, it helped me realize just a simple truth, that your kids love you for you. And daddy can go out on the road and, they watch me sing sometimes. But when I'm walking through that door, I am dad, and I am the one that my Hannah called me yesterday, and my daughter had to use a bathroom or something, and she used my wipes. They didn't have no more wipes, so she used the dude wipes that I used.
I got dude wipes.
I got dude wipes, yeah. Great dude wipes. We love dude wipes. Yeah. And she said she used the wipes, and she was like, "Whose wipes are these?" And I'm like, "These are Daddy's wipes." And she said she took a minute, and she was like, "My dad is the best dad."
Oh.
And I always feel guilty when I'm having
6th Grammy.
There's the 6th Grammy. The 5 other Grammys don't even compare in me being away and the guilt that I often feel whenever they're dropping me off at the airport. And I still cry to this day of just the sadness of kind of the life that I have and the tension and the fear of like, well, are they going to grow up thinking Dad wasn't here? And then what moments am I missing? But my 3-year-old baby girl, my only girl, because I had my wipes just happened to be in the right place. It's like, my dad is the best dad. And moments like that make all of this worth it. It makes all of it worth it.
Come on. Yeah, that's been probably the biggest gift for me in walking this journey that I'm on, that you're on, is I feel like I was armed with a lot of these tools before I became a parent, and I still thought I should read all the parenting books, and I listened and read to quite a few of them. But there were so many theories and 3-step processes, and it was almost overwhelming because you can't hit the mark on all those. Sir. And I thought, well, what mirror moment, if I could just put the microscope down on their behavior and how I could manipulate it and pick up the mirror on, am I being
so good,
congruent? Just like we talked about that energetic exchange.
So good.
That's what they pick. I said this in a recent episode with a good friend of mine. We were talking about parenting, and I said something like, I think congruence may be the most important part of the parenting endeavor. And then my great team cut that into a clip that we're probably going to be putting out soon. And so this morning I got on ChatGPT and I was like, can I back that theory up? I thought I could at a high level, but I wanted to almost check myself. And so I was like punching it in, I was telling me about, and sure enough, it falls within the godfathers of psychology would say that's probably the most important thing you can do. And I was like, well, look at there. It's actually accurate. But it feels good too, because it basically, the challenge is I get to pursue the best and most authentic version of me, which is what you said. They love you the more you are you. Yeah. And I think that's probably the best mirror we can give them. And the rest of it's going to be a melting pot of getting it right and messy and massaging. Exactly. And I've overcorrected. Big time, because I'm armed with all this info, and I was almost too soft and too feelings forward.
Help me. That's what
it requires, and I think that's a people mistake that if you're in this space and you know certain things, then that's soft parenting is kind of a new trend. And I think it's part of it, but I really think you can be clear, direct, and firm, and also provide a secure attachment for your kids. You can affirm and love them at the same time. Yes, and getting out of balance doing one or the other is where it becomes a little bit of a challenge. And we will tomorrow. I'll overreact on something, but I get to correct it. I get to repair it. You, I don't know if you heard this at your time at Onsite or not, but we say it a lot, which is in Carlos, one of our clinicians who I love, I think he coined it, which is it's not about the rip, it's about the repair.
Yes, sir. Yep.
You remember that?
Yes.
And to me, that's been probably my go-to parenting tool. At any one point with these little toddlers, I can get on my knees and go eye to eye and say, Daddy would like to have done that different. And they get it. Yeah. I got nostalgic about a moment that I hadn't told this story to anybody, but you told me one. I'll share with you one. But because of a lot of my social relationships and some of the people I work with, which I work with a lot of high-performing people that do cool things, especially cool things in some cases to kids, depending on their interests, whether they're in the arts or into sports. You know, access is a real thing. It's one of the perks of a job like yours is and mine. But as I've introduced him to some of his loves, like sports and athletics, he's gotten a little bit of a surreal introduction into certain elements. Sidelining of an NFL game, meeting his favorite athlete, cool. Backstage here, this, that. And I don't take it for granted, because I'm like a kid too when I get in that environment. I'm like, wow, you're seeing it from that lens. But to get introduced to it so early, I started to worry a little bit. It was like, I may be ruining this kid. I need to go sit up in the cheap seats and let him get a taste of how most of us watch these things. And we were riding in my truck the other day, and he was sitting in the back, and we were having a conversation. And we had gone to a little high school game together, randomly out in our little area, our town that we grew up, but our town that we live in. Had no reason to go because we had no attachment to either school. It was just a random Friday night. He likes football, so we did the whole Friday night lights thing and went to a football game.
Sweet.
And he said, hey, you know that game we went? No, I said to him, I said, what's your favorite experience we've had so far? You know, and he brought that one up. Wow. And there were no bells and whistles, no shiny, no pictures, it was just he and I going to something that arguably didn't matter. And I said, you know what, buddy? I said, that's really good for me to hear, because my best experience with you, don't get me wrong, I loved getting to take you to the Super Bowl. All that was magical. But it's just when you and I have time together. I really love spending time with you. And then he gave me one of what your wife gave you. He said, you're really the best dad. And I was biting my lip trying to hold it together, even though, and I finally let the tears come, and I was like, and he was confused by him at first. He was like, why does that make you sad? I was like, buddy, it makes me so happy. That's what I want to do in this world, is parent you well. And I do think when you see those things, like when you learn about attachment styles and things like that, you can't help sometimes but move into to coddle and not let them, get beat up by the world a little bit. And I think we just, as parents, we have to call ourselves out like that. But the beautiful thing is, if you're out there as a parent, and please hear me, I am no parenting expert. I am learning as I go. There are parenting experts that I admire, and go look them up for parenting advice. We're just two guys bouncing off the guardrails trying to figure it out. But I will say the one thing I think you and I might stand behind, and I want our listeners to hear, is that if you can really just chase this true and authentic version of you that is on a journey to wanting to be better.
Yes.
You want to improve in your spiritual life, in your emotional life, in your relationships, in your parenting. It's tough to go wrong if you're questioning and curious and holding dual thought and all the things we're talking about. And actually, it's made it so fun for me. I don't dread it like I did.
So true.
Some of those first few years when we're just hanging on for dear life, sleep deprived, it's like, what?
Yes.
I love my kids, but I'm kind of miserable in life right now. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So much I want to freeze them because they're just so fun to talk to right now.
The current age, it's changed our household too. I mean, we have 8, 6, 3, and 2, and two of my older boys live with their moms, and the youngest live with us. But it has changed the atmosphere of our house, and as wild and as 3 and 2 as they are, and as 8 and 6 as they are, it is the questioning and the searching of what are they becoming, what are they forming into, how are we shaping, how are we molding, what is the experience they have, and just the question, just asking question opens up such another world of fun with parenting, and it has changed some things for sure.
Yeah, and just like we're talking about with all the little moments, to make sure and celebrate them like we just did with a couple moments we had, because we know the other side's coming. I mean, gosh, we're a few years from teenagers when they're going to hate us and everything we do. It's coming. But I think if we stay true to who we are in the ups and downs and the good and bad, and share it with a friend, it just makes it so much more palatable.
My 8-year-old seeing me do the work, you can just tell it just opened up something else in him. And when he's having challenges at school, or it made a conversation easy. Like, for instance, he had detention for something him and his friends had gotten into, and some stuff, and when we were talking, I was like, so what happened? He was like, well, they. I was like, okay. I was like, well, when Daddy went away for 40 days, and I had a lot of stuff I had to work on. And I said, the only way I was able to work on those things is something called ownership. And it was something called me taking responsibility for my role. I can't control the roles of others. And that conversation, that thing opened up a safety for us, to where it's like, well, this is what I did. This is how I own, because he saw me take ownership and he knew that I went away. So that things like that you can't pay for, and time can't even be put on. It's just like those things just kind of evolve, and So it has definitely changed parenting, and it makes me want to have more kids. I want more kids, Miles. My team is like,
how you got time for this? Thank God you're 30. I would take more too. I'm getting a little bit late down the highway here, but I do. There another thing that we borrowed when I was working or advising another artist one time that I just thought about because it kind of parlays over to parenting. And it was really a page out of Johnny Cash. Was a great artist. He was a Hall of Fame. He was in multiple Hall of Fames. I think he's in rock, country, gospel, all of it. But he was a troubled soul, like the rest of us, and was always trying to figure out life. But ultimately lived into a pretty cool story of redemption. But he talked about how he wanted to stay connected to his audience, but found it overwhelming to try to connect with that many people. So he would always play to one. He'd find one person, and often it was somebody that maybe was drugged there by a girlfriend or a boyfriend that didn't really want to be there, that weren't super interested, and he would literally play to them pretty much. Great. And I think about that as a dad sometimes. I'm parenting this little life. I'm not trying to parent all this friend. I can't control all that, all the friends and the cultural and the schools and the problems and the issues. I'm coaching to one here, playing to one, parenting to one. And ultimately, if we do that right, I really think it ripples out and encourages a whole lot more people. Because in our space, I've seen this over and over. Really, we help reparent certain parts of people that. Because no parent will get it perfect. Mine didn't, and they're awesome. Yours probably didn't. They're amazing. And I'm not getting it right. And culture then and other influences will ideally fill the gap.
Yes.
They're gonna, when I have little parenting shortfalls, they're gonna reparent. I hope my kids are listening to this one day and picking up stuff that you're saying and having little repair moments. And that's the beauty of this kind of work. And I think that's what you're strapping up to get ready to go do.
Yes,
how would, I guess, tell us a little bit about this next chapter, what you know about it. I know you're in the planning phase of it, but I'd love to hear a little bit about
what I'm sure about.
The new music.
So I am coming from a mainstream Christian space. It is a little risky to start talking about the things that happen behind closed doors and the things that are happening internally. But I'm taking the risk and I'm jumping, and I'm focused on the one. I'm playing to the one. I'm looking at what I may have needed to hear 2.5 years ago, and what may have helped me move helped me move in my journey. And on some of these songs I wrote in treatment, some of these ideas started when I'm playing this little raggedy piano that they had in there, and it's coming from. I always say, your authenticity has an audience, and we can chase so many audiences and compare ourselves. I wish I had that kind of, and I wish I had that kind of, but the audience that is most true is there when you present authenticity. So I don't even say I'm leaving a Christian mainstream space, but I'm just doing what is true to me now. I'm doing what is true and what I feel like my higher power, what God has been putting inside of me and birthing and working in me now. And it is a lot of this. I think, can I throw out a working title on the album? No? Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, and then if not, we can edit it out. But edit out I think my next album is going to be called "I Checked Into Rehab," and I think I'm gonna. The songs are songs that are based in faith, based in pain, based in hope, based in regret, based in love, and just the journey of that, and just the journey of what has unfolded, and in hopes to help people, whether they believe the same thing I do, whether they don't believe anything at all, but just in hopes to help people see and help them love themselves more as a human. It's like, acknowledge I am a human first. I am something that's been created, and I want to love myself. And I think that is the goal of the album, to put that mirror in front of somebody and just celebrate today. Celebrate that you figured out how to survive. Whatever surviving looks like, you figured it out, and maybe motivation and impact you enough to take the next step and figuring out how to evolve as a human. So I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about what it's going to do in the spaces it'll be in. and talking more about the story.
Well, I am too. I can't wait to get my hands around it. It's such an honest, I'll just say, such an honest title.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know we may not be able to use it in the We'll See, but it's it's such an honest title, and that alone makes me want to understand it and hear it. But I love what you said, in that you took it even a layer deeper, and that you're like, I really want to play to one, but I want to say to the guy 2.5 years ago that was a little bit lost and trying to find himself. So do you remember when, I don't know if you did any of this at Onsite, where we often will take a cognitive process where you're exchanging words and make it three-dimensional and experiential, where you're you'll pull people into maybe a role, or we use this tool called doubling. Whereas if you have somebody come behind you and if you're lost in your thoughts, they'll give you their perception of what would be a clear message that maybe you're not quite ready to say. And then you get to try it on and be like, you know what, that actually fits. I'm going to stand with it. Or if not, you get to change it.
That was so transformative.
That part?
Yes.
Say more about that.
Because when I was groping in the dark a little bit, and depending on the amount of trauma I had, it just wasn't pieced together. And again, I had disconnected so much that it was hard. I didn't have a narrative for the internal, and not even so much trying to remember what happened, but how it made me feel, and the effect, and putting language to how Chandler internally felt. I had never done it before, and if I had masked it so much that the truth had kind of gotten foggy. So that doubling and that seeing what fits helped kind of guide, shape that narrative, and even almost reconstruct. I was reading something. I was talking to ChatGPT, and it said memory is not exactly how we say it of like remembrance. Like, memory is not always how you remember it going, but memory is almost reconstructive. So it's almost like you have something called the Mandela effect, how people thought Mandela died in prison, but a certain group of people, 1,000 people, and people remember something a certain way. So that doubling, even if it didn't bring back every detail of how I felt, it put on a shoe that fit, and internally, and I think all of my body knew what fit, and I just didn't know how to get the language out of my mouth for it. So I hope that's what the album does.
Come on.
I hope that's
maybe
what the
album
does.
doubles for all of us.
I hope the album does that. That even if a person doesn't know, like if you're starting with a blank slate of so many pieces that you don't even have the energy to put together like me, that you will hear a lyric, you'll hear a line, you'll hear a song, and it's like, oh, that fits. Let's see what's behind there, and keep journeying through. Even if it's just one song or one line on the whole album of however many songs that fits, and it takes you to the next step. I want it to be a tool. I want it to be something that is honest, and put myself out there as much as I can, and people take as much as they can from it.
So well said. I can't wait to go back and hear that again, because I think you described a psychological tool that we've been using for 20 years better than I've ever described it. But I love the idea of thinking about you got this moment as a art piece of art, as an album, as a tour.
Yeah,
it's like, we're gonna go out there and encourage some people.
Yeah,
come on, I love that. Well, I've got a couple things I want to close with and share about my observations with you. And I know we need to kind of land the plane time-wise, but I want to make sure, is there anything else you might want to share before we
It's part one. We'll have like part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5 of Human School.
Yes. I'm all in. I love it. Okay. How about you guys? Anything you'd like to see us talk about we haven't? Feel okay? Okay. I'm going to do something, and I'll try to keep it brief because I know you said it's not quite comfortable for you yet, which is to give you
lean into the discomfort.
Give you some affirmation. Because I had a really dear friend who, I love friends that serve also as mentors, and I feel like she was a mentor by me watching the way she was living and moving and about the world. And it's a story. It's a longer story to tell, which I'll tell you sometime, either in part 2 or just, when we're hanging some other time. It's a really beautiful story about how we got here, because she had a really tough upbringing and got sober, and then did the impossible and became a super influential people in the recovery business. And from her background, it just wouldn't have been possible, but she did it. And then I had a moment later where I was not quite comfortable stepping into the gifting that I felt like God put into my life. I felt like it was more reserved for a background thing, and things like this were never in my purview. And now I'm out here talking, a little bit more publicly. And it's in large part because of her, because in that pivotal moment, I want to say it was about 10 years ago, I had used a very familiar play out of my playbook, which is a very, very influential hero person of mine in culture. I had an opportunity there that my MO was like, well, I better duck into the background here. And that's what I did. And I told her about it, but it didn't feel good anymore. It stopped working. Yeah. Hiding wasn't working anymore. And I was like, no, I got something to say. I want to say it. And she was 4'0" but she just kind of reached up and grabbed me by the shirt, which she could do in a non-aggressive way, ideally, but a very direct way. And she looked up at me and she said, Miles, it's time for you to stand in your divinity. And I said, what? And she said, stand in your divinity. And it just washed all over me. And I was like, she's right. I'm ready to get straight up in the middle of my truth and go share some of it, and let's see what happens. And so I feel called to say that to you, because I feel that, and I know I'm using language that's familiar to us, may not be familiar with other people, but I think stand in your divinity. I think you're getting ready to stand in your truth and stand on your truth and be proud of it. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the guy I'm looking at today from even back in 23. It's remarkable. I mean, you got light in your eyes. It just feels good. It's attractive to want to be around, and I'm so grateful for you. I think I've always loved and hated the part of faith that comes at the end in our tradition, the altar call. I loved it because it was always filled with awe and magic, and sometimes you'd see people have real redemptive moments, but it always felt a little bit like a cell. Yeah. Like a little bit of a, to belong here at some point. And I'm not picking on, but I think there's other forms of altar calls. I think this show is kind of a form of an altar call. Yeah. I think your life is a form of an altar call. And I think you're inviting so many more people into the vastness of what faith has been to me, into the vastness of what maybe faith is becoming for both of us, which is just rewarding and enriching our lives and our relationships. If I'd have known that, I'd been chasing it harder all along. It's not just a set of rules that I have to follow, and if I get wrong, I'm never going to get to have any kind of reward in life. There's there accountability and guardrails, you bet. But I see what you're doing and the message you're delivering is divine, and I see what's coming is a big altar call for the world. And maybe the part of the world that aren't ever going to hear an altar call in the way that you and I have heard them. They're probably not going to be the ones that are going to show up in church on Sunday, because they don't feel like they deserve to be there. And I feel like you're getting ready to give them a big permission slip. I can't wait to see what happens. And I hope I can continue, to be a little wind behind your sails. All of us out there that are going to be cheering you on for this next season. So thank you for making time today.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you. Thank you. That helps me in so many ways. I think because of my experience with, certain environments and things like altar call, I'm seeing more and more in the past couple months how God has just been orchestrating my story. And I usually say the things that you're most frustrated about are the things that you're usually called to. And there's a lot of frustrations about how certain things go down in the world that I'm from, but what you're saying hits home so hard in a way that it is aligning for me, and I thank you for that. Thank you.
Absolutely. What a great conversation. Thank you for doing this, man.
Thank you for having me. This January is a great start to this new journey for me. I mean, the season is starting now, and this is God's way of a pat on the back for me. So.
Man, enjoy it. You've earned it, Bubba.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. And I just want to share my gratitude and thank you all so much for following along on this journey and for subscribing and leaving us reviews and sharing these podcast episodes. This has been so meaningful and encouraging to me, and it's been encouraging to a lot of other people as well. And you are the fuel behind this whole thing for me. When I hear from you, when we get to engage with you, it really pushes us to want to continue to take these conversations to more and more people who we really feel like deserve to grow, change, and heal. So I hope you'll follow along. I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll leave us some reviews. And I just want to say thank you again, and I'll see you next time on Human School.